want to show. It's rare. I don't think we've ever seen defendants themselves being walked in. Now, again, in terms of what we expect today, we've been told that there could be a number of what they call complaining witnesses. Those are victims, alleged victims of what took place in July 1982 in that village of Dujale. They're called that because they're not being put forward by the prosecution, rather essentially by the court. The prosecution and the defense will have time to talk to the witnesses through the judges, but the judges themselves will also be able to direct questions. You're seeing here, again, Barzan Ibrahim Hassan there, the half-brother to Saddam Hussein. Taha Yassin Ramadan, the former Iraqi vice president. And one by one, they're being called into court. Todd?
Anisha, a lot has been made about whether or not Saddam can get a fair trial. Now, one of his legal advisors now, of course, is Ramsey Clark. He's been a very outspoken critic of U.S. foreign policy, the former U.S. President Johnson. What issues is he likely to raise today?
Well, he's expecting to make a statement to the court. He wanted to do so last week. The judge didn't allow him. In that statement, he's expected to raise issues, first about the overall security situation, one that has left two of the defense attorneys assassinated in Iraq. Also, the security for the remaining defense attorneys. They have yet to reach an agreement with the government for security that the defense deems adequate. And so until they do, Ramsey Clark has said that this trial, it's impractical for it to continue given that situation. He will also, we're told, raise the issue of the legality of this court. That's a much larger issue. It's also one of three outstanding motions that remain from Saddam's chief counsel, Khalil Delaney, the legitimacy of the court. Also, in terms of those outstanding motions, the sovereignty immunity for Saddam Hussein. They say he's still president of Iraq and thus immune from charges that are being put forth against him. The third is that they want additional time to prepare. Those are motions that have been outstanding for some time. It's unclear whether the judge will rule on them today. But what we do expect in terms of procedural matters is for the defense to make some sort of statement, perhaps at the top of today's session. We also expect, as we've been reporting, that the chief judge, and you see him there, Rizgar Muhammad Amin, will announce that one of his co-judges, there are 5 total, he's the presiding one, has recused himself because evidence has been put forth, the execution order essentially signed by one of the co-defendants of Saddam for that judge's brother. So he will, having recused himself, Chief Judge Muhammad Amin will announce, one would assume, another judge has been put in his place. Those procedural matters likely, and you see there Ramsey Clark, the former U.S. Attorney General, to take up the morning session and the bulk of time at the beginning of today's hearing. The question is, where do they go from there? Do they start to call these witnesses, as was expected last week, or does the defense ask for an immediate delay and the court essentially acquiesce to that, Todd?
And of course, the judge, twice now since the trial started in October, has delayed. So really, we have yet to get into the trial itself. And there's also a political demand. This is a judicial procedure in that we have the national elections in Iraq just 10 days from now.
Exactly. All assumptions are that even if we see this process go forward today, likely for 3 to 4 days maximum, they would then adjourn until after those elections. Logistically, it will be an incredible feat for this government to hold elections at the same time that this trial is going on. So in any case, by the end of this week, at the latest, we expect an adjournment of some time until after those December 15th elections. But again, this is a legal process that has to assume it's working completely abstract from any political developments going on in Iraq. And so what we see today will essentially be a harbinger, one can assume, of what we'll see from now on. If there is another adjournment, it will undoubtedly raise huge concerns from the government. It will raise concerns from perhaps parties outside of Iraq as well, human rights organizations that have already said there are huge logistical issues the court needs to work out about whether this trial can go forward, how much a delay is really necessary for all of these defense motions to be dealt with, and how do you deal with them en masse so that this trial can begin in earnest. But if we do see the trial go forward today, the first of, as I said, perhaps 3 to 4 days of testimony, and you see Saddam Hussein now seated there on the lower right of your screen, next to him Awad Bandar, the chief revolutionary judge under Saddam Hussein. Let's listen in as the judge begins this hearing.
For the court, and the court represents the people. I only wanted to clarify this. We don't have a problem with the lawyers, it looks.